I have received a letter from the Honourable the Manager of Opposition Business proposing that a definite matter of public importance be submitted to the House for discussion, namely this government's inaction and policy failure creating a housing crisis for Australians. I call upon those honourable members who approve of the proposed discussion to rise in their places, and I give the call to the Manager of Opposition Business.
Well, thanks very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, as we've seen this week, there are a litany of failures from this government, and all you needed to do was listen to some of the questions earlier today, the increased costs, whether it's food, whether it's gas, whether it's electricity, indeed every form of energy, whether it's insurance. And of course, we highlighted today, although the Treasurer seemed a bit hazy on the numbers, that rents are up significantly by 17%. And you wonder what on earth has occurred over the last couple of years, or indeed what hasn't happened over the last 3 years of this Labor government to lead us to this position. And I think the most stark statistic, the most stark data point to highlight just how hopeless this government has been on housing is to reflect on the fact that, or ask the question indeed, how many homes have been built in this country as a direct result of a Albanese government policy or program? Now, they've been in government for 990 days. So 990 days, they're on to their second minister who ruined the Home Affairs portfolio and has continued that form in the housing portfolio. But 990 days, and we hear in question time and in press conferences with hard hats and high vis that the Albanese government wants to build more homes. So how many homes after 990 days? I mean, how many homes? Now, we need to build, just to put it into some context, Australia needs to build a home every few minutes just to keep up with the more than 1 million migrants that have come into Australia as a result of this government jacking up our immigration program to levels we've never seen before. So we need to build homes every few minutes. So 990 days later, what would you think? How many thousands? There must be tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands. Well, after 990 days, this government is responsible for 0 homes being built in this country. Not one home has been built in Australia as a result of a policy implemented or put forward by this government. Not one home. Now, the days of the Labor Party and their flowery words, we want to build more homes, we want to get rents down, those flowery words mean nothing when the outcome is what it is. We've seen rents up 17%. Now, again, surprise, surprise, when you bring in more than 500,000 migrants each year, competing for a dwindling supply of stock, what's that going to do? It's going to jack up prices. Well, that's what we saw, 17% for rents. We've seen the Labor Party commit to 1.2 million homes over 5 years. Now, this is, I mean, I thought Utopia put an end to these sorts of things, from the very Rudd-esque grand proclamations of ambition. But the ambition of building 1.2 million homes, how are they tracking? Where are they on the journey to 1.2 million homes? Well, I think most fair-minded people would say, well, you know, if you're around the mark, you might be 20 or 30 or 40,000 homes short. That's okay. We'll give you points for trying. At least you're getting close to the so-called target of 1.2 million homes. Well, a startling piece of information was released recently which shows, according to the Master Builders Association, the Labor Party is not going to miss their target of 1.2 million homes by a smidge. They're not going to miss it by a few thousand homes or tens of thousands of homes. They're going to miss it by 375,000 homes. They're going to be lucky to build 800,000 homes in 5 years. Now, to put that into some context, in the last 5 years of the coalition government, more than 1 million homes were built. More than 1 million homes were built over that time, and in fact, Australia has regularly built more than 1 million homes every 5-year period. So not only does this government have the audacity to have the worst record on home building, pushing it into the ground of 800,000 homes, they still are going along and still perpetuating this idea that their 1.2 million home guarantee or promise is alive. Well, it's not alive. It's dead. Dead in the water. They're going to miss it by nearly 400,000 homes. So with rents up, with fewer homes being built, with immigration at levels we have not seen in any time in Australia's history in raw terms, and I say that as the product of migrants. I come from a migrant family. We in the coalition, we are the stewards of a planned migration program in this country, but you cannot bring in more than 500,000 migrants with absolutely no idea of where they're going to live. And that is what has happened under this government. Now we see no discussion from the government on first home buyers at all. They have completely waved the white flag on home ownership. They are utterly unconcerned with a generation of Australians who quite rightly expect that they will have the same opportunities for home ownership that their parents had, their grandparents had, and so on and so forth. We hear nothing out of the government on home ownership, although we do see something from the government on support for first home buyers. We see on a very regular basis the Minister for Housing spruiking this little program called the Home Guarantee Scheme. Yes. The Home Guarantee Scheme, which allows first home buyers to get into their first home with a deposit of as little as 5%. Now, it's a fantastic policy. It's a fantastic policy because without a policy like that, first home buyers would be required to save a full 20% deposit before they are able to get into a home. And we are massive supporters of that policy because guess what? It's our policy that we legislated. So the only policy that the Minister for Housing is running around the country and spruiking is a policy we took to the 2019 election that those opposite called socialism, which was an interesting critique coming from them. So critical of the Home Guarantee Scheme to start with, and now are running around the country trying to own it as their own. Well, look, we're very flattered that the government is enthusiastically adopting the Home Guarantee Scheme, which I was very proud to legislate, implement and put together as Housing Minister. Success does have many fathers and mothers, but the Housing Minister, every time she spruiks that program, a proud coalition achievement, because the coalition is the party of home ownership in this country. She is accepting that, quite frankly. If Australians want support for first home buyers, the coalition is the only place to go, and we will continue to do that, including allowing first home buyers to get access to a portion up to $50,000 of their own superannuation to put towards that deposit. We know the deposit hurdle is one of the hardest things that any first home buyer or prospective first home buyer faces, and there's nothing that kills them more than when they're struggling to pay their rent, pay their bills, live through this cost of living crisis from the Labor Party, trying to save a bit of money for that deposit. And what kills them is when they look at that super balance and see that a portion of that could be put towards their deposit. So we'll continue to support first home buyers, whether it's allowing them access to a portion of their super, which then has to go back into the super at the end to protect their retirement savings, whether it includes our housing infrastructure program, which will build 500,000 homes around Australia by investing in enabling infrastructure, and of course to reaffirm our commitment that in the end, on this side of the House, we believe every single Australian should have an opportunity for home ownership. This government has betrayed those young Australians. This government has given up on those Australians, and I can assure young Australians who want to get into their own home, we have your back and we'll be supporting you every day between now and the election.